So welcome to the Azimuth Podcast, where we explore the compass points of news, politics, leadership, and family values. I'm your host, Barrett McNabb, and today we are thrilled to welcome our very first guest to the show, a man whose life story embodies civic engagement, artistic excellence, and deep cultural roots here in Texas. Joining us today is Eduardo Lopez de Casas, a founder of the Saturday Menudo Club here in Harris County, a grassroots initiative that's quickly becoming a powerful gathering point for conservatives in the Hispanic community. Along with Carmon Cavazos and Andy Valadez, Eduardo has helped launch something truly unique, a political and cultural movement built around the comfort of community and a warm bowl of menudo. Eduardo just isn't a political organizer. He's served over a decade as the chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly in Harris County and has been a familiar face on local and national networks, including CBS, ABC, NBC, Univision, and Telemundo. He's also a world-renowned counter-tenor, performing on stages from Texas to Europe and Australia. Today, we're digging into the story behind the Saturday Menudo Club, how it started, why it matters, and what it tells us about the evolving political landscape in Texas and beyond. Eduardo, welcome to Azimuth Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Barrett.
Absolutely. So let's start with your story. What sparked the idea for the Saturday Menudo Club?
In actuality, first, let me tell you that we also have a new co-host, Liz Ramos.
Yes.
So she is added onto the list along with Andy Valadez and Carmon Cavazos and myself.
And she's in the
She is
Cypress.
in the Cypress area because, of course, we had been asked to include people in the north side. And so she is now the co-host on the north side.
Okay.
And also, what got this started was several years ago, Andy Valadez, who's a very good personal friend of mine, had called me up one day and said, Eduardo, I want some good menudo, and I know that you know where the best menudo is in town. So I started telling him, well, there's this place and that place, and we started getting together every once in a while to enjoy the menudo at different establishments here in Harris County. As this continued, we started inviting other friends to meet us, and thus the Saturday Menudo Club was born out of that.
Now, what role did each of those have? I know both Carmon and Andy they're Marines.
Mm-hmm.
They're veterans of our armed forces. So when you got together and were just meeting as friends, what made it decide to into a political organization?
To tell you the truth, that is a mystery to me.
Okay. Right.
And the reason I'm telling you that is because my idea was just simply to have concerned citizens come together and to be able to talk about problems in their neighborhoods.
Right.
And about problems in our local city hall issues, whatever is going on in the community that they wanted to talk about. So I did not set this out to be a political organization. It just so happens that conservatives came out of the woodwork,
right,
and started attending the Menudo Club, and they basically led the way, and they led the way into what the Menudo Club has become.
Now, did you model it after any other organization, or it just was a natural evolution of the family get-together and the friends get-together?
In the sense of modeling, of course, since I was the Harris County chairman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly for many years, of course, I had monthly meetings at that time in association with the Harris County GOP. So I had plenty of experience in that.
Right.
But I did not model this on any of what happened with the RNHA simply for the fact that what I wanted to do is, first and foremost, is make this a fun process.
Sure,
for people.
That's the most ideal.
Because that is what would drive me up the wall in going to political meetings, is that no matter where they were held, they could be at a barbecue place or a sushi place, whatever. The ambiance sometimes was very nice, but people would show up and hear the speakers and then leave.
Okay.
And that's not what I wanted for the Menudo Club. I wanted people to come And as a good example, when we had our Cinco de Mayo celebration on the 3rd of May, about a week ago, I basically had to throw people out of the restaurant.
I did attend that. The mariachi band was on point.
Yes, and so that's what I intended, is not to model it after boring political meetings.
Right.
I wanted fun.
Well, I tell you, I've gone now, this is what I've been attending for 3 months, and it has been an amazing experience every single time.
Good.
And so I've been very happy to be there.
Good.
Now, how does this club bridge the cultural traditions in conservative politics?
Well, as far as cultural traditions, it's going to bridge it just simply with me there.
Right.
Because I am so involved in the cultural scene. I have been involved for many years, not only locally, but internationally. And so that is just a flavor that was going to be added to our Menudo Club. And it was there from the beginning. And I'm the liaison for it. And to me, it's extremely important to tie them both together, because there are a lot of issues in the cultural community here in Houston that I have seen through the years that need to be changed and revamped. And I'll give you some good examples. As a retired classical singer, when I attend, for example, the Houston Grand Opera,
right,
or the Symphony, now that I have retired, it has really, really disappointed me in the sense that I go and Jones Hall or the Wortham is halfway full,
right,
for these opera productions and symphony productions. It's very disappointing to see that. But then every year I have to read how the symphony ball or the opera ball make in one night at a gala, $2 million, $3 million that people are dishing out. And my thing is, even though I'm a retired classical singer and that's where I come from, I'm like, why are they funding these things at such a high price when they can't even fill the auditoriums anymore?
Right.
And what is a shame for me is that I recognize art in all forms, and it doesn't have to be in a 2,000-seat arena.
Right.
There can be art in a little local theater. I just attended Drunk Romeo and Juliet at this little theater downtown, which was fabulous. And I'm thinking, okay, these millions of dollars that we dish out to the symphony and to the opera every year need to some reallocations to some of these smaller theaters, because the smaller theaters are actually filling up the theaters.
Right.
And we need to invest money into them.
I remember my very first musical that I went to. I was in 7th grade, and it was Nixon Goes to China. And it was on Halloween. And all of the kids thought I was crazy for skipping going trick-or-treating and to go to the Wortham Theater for Nixon Goes to China. But I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yes.
It was
a fabulous production.
An amazing experience for myself. My mother is in a group of ladies called the Red Hat Ladies, and they are a group of friends, and they go all the time to productions and have a standing season tickets to go do that. And they all wear their fancy
theater
little
is
red
so
hats.
much fun.
I agree.
It's so much fun and such an outlet for anxieties, for whatever. And as we all know, music is life's medicine.
I agree.
So I see the necessity, of course, for all of these things. But like I said, even that needs to be revamped a little bit, because I was involved for many years in the social scene. And of course, one of the goals for anybody in the social scene is to be the chair of the symphony ball, to be the chair of the opera ball. I mean, that's like the ultimate.
Right.
And like I said, that's wonderful. And it's wonderful to raise over $1 million in one night, in one evening. But again, then it's disappointing to go to these theaters and see them half full.
I agree. I agree. I can't wait till my kids are a little older to take them because I don't want them to be disruptive. I want them to be appreciative, but I want to give them the same experience that I had as a child into the arts as well.
Yes.
So, in your experience, how receptive has the Hispanic community in Harris County been to the conservative message, and how has that changed over the years?
Well, not only in Harris County, but just in our state.
Right.
I knew that something was in the air because I forgot what year it was, but several years ago I was down in the Rio Grande Valley for a funeral and was just absolutely amazed when I was in the Harlingen, Brownsville area and was passing Donald Trump billboards on the highway. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I'm in South Texas. I'm in an area where it's all Hispanics, and I'm seeing Donald Trump billboards, which of course you don't see here, for example, in Houston. But I knew that something was going on, and I could see that the Hispanic community, and this was from his first term, that the Hispanic community was really coming to terms with Donald Trump's message, what he wanted to do for the country. And I knew that they were going to be a big part of his first election, and they were an extremely big part of his second election.
Right. Now, one of the things when we talk about the Valley, I know that I saw some messaging that the Harris County GOP is taking or wants to take credit for flipping the Valley red, and that they had put billboards down there and things like that. Who is really responsible for that? Is it just that Latinos are ingrainedly and culturally conservative to begin with, and they're just now seeing that there's opportunities under the Republican Party?
I think that a big part of what turned the Valley red is, number one, the crime.
Sure.
And when you live down there, and it's a very poor area, those farms are a very poor area, but if you can imagine that you have your little piece of heaven, your little piece of property, and then you have all of these strangers that are parading through there at all hours of the day and leaving trash and things behind. And I think that the people down in the border, the Hispanics, just finally got fed up, and they realized the Democrats are not doing anything to stop this.
Right.
And so this was not really even a shift to the Republican Party. This was just simply a shift to Donald Trump.
Agreed, yeah.
Because they fell in love with Donald Trump and his message. And the scary thing about that, and what I wish the GOP realized, is that it does not mean that in 4 years that they're going to back whoever the Republican candidate is, because it would have to be somebody just as magnetic as Trump to keep their interest. And if there isn't someone offered like that, then they'll go back to where they were.
Well, and that's something I think is super important, is that a vote is earned, and it has to be continuously earned. And I think that's a message that the Republican Party needs to take. I know when I attended the Houston County Republican Party executive meeting, one of the points that they were trying to talk about is that the Latino vote went to Trump, and how do we turn those voters into Republican voters? Because to your point, they voted for Donald Trump. They didn't necessarily vote for the Republican Party. And so I know that there's going to be a lot of energy that's going to be spent to try and do that. As you formed your club, did you have any assistance from the Harris County Republican Party initially?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And it's something that I didn't seek either.
Sure.
Because after having spent more than 30 years in the political field here in Harris County, number one, when I was chairman of the RNHA, it was very difficult to get the GOP to assist us.
Right.
And the GOP has a tendency to only come around once you start being successful with what you're doing. And a good example is, I learned my lesson many years ago. I think Mitt Romney had been sent here to Houston to do something, and he was speaking somewhere in the Galleria, or at the Lincoln Hotel by the Galleria. And on that day, I showed up with the RNHA, and I threw a reception at a perfumery in the Galleria before he spoke. So I had like 60 RNHA members there, and then we crossed the street over to the Lincoln Hotel, and we saw Mitt Romney speak. And of course, the GOP immediately noticed the group that I had. And after the speeches, they actually invited us to come on stage with the whole group and take a picture. And I realized, I was like, okay, this is the GOP saying, we want a picture because there's 60 Hispanics sitting here watching Mitt Romney.
It's funny how that works.
Like trying to take credit for it. And I learned that lesson a long time ago. And that's how come here with the Menudo Club, the same thing is happening. We're expanding by leaps and bounds. People are talking about us.
You're the fastest growing Latino organization in Houston.
And we're helping candidates in their campaigns. So now we're being sought after by candidates that say we want to be backed by the Menudo Club. And the GOP is definitely getting that message that something is going on. But unfortunately, with people like me at the helm, they're not going to get that opportunity.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Now, how has the club grown since it started? Just as we mentioned a second ago, it's the fastest growing Latino organization in Harris County in Houston. Who is showing up and why do they keep coming?
Again, that's something that surprises me all the time. And the reason I'm saying is, for example, on the 3rd of May, we had someone, a very dear friend of mine, Rose, who hadn't been for a while, but she was there from the very beginning.
Right.
And of course, she was just amazed because, she used to come when we had, 10 to 12 people. And to see the evolution.
It's not 10 to 12 people anymore.
No. But like I said, that surprises even me. But when you mix politics with fun, with cultural things, you keep people interested. And that's what it's about. You constantly have to be renewing your ideas. And me, with a background in show business, I know how important that is. Because people aren't going to come to see the same play every night.
Right.
They want different plays. They want different things. They want different music, different exposure. Just this morning, I was talking to someone at Houston Public Media about coming and addressing the club to tell us about all of the things that Houston Public Media is doing.
Right.
And I think that's very important because these things are happening under our nose in our community, using our tax dollars, and we need to be aware of what they're doing.
Now, one of the things when we're talking about plans to expand, you and I had a conversation at the very first Menudo Club meeting that I went to about having satellite offices, and you're in Cypress, you're in Victoria. How far do you think this will go in Texas and nationwide?
Well, my idea is it will go as far as the people want it to go. I was 2 weeks ago in Manhattan, and I talked to a group there about the possibilities of Menudo Club in New York. I can see this is boundless. There are no boundaries. The sky is the limit. Of course, right now, what I'm working very hard on doing, as this is being used as a model for other cities. I want to keep it in Texas right now, just simply for the fact that we have to make sure that the model is complete before we say send it out to other states.
That makes sense.
And that we have boundaries. And we're working on that, but those are not complete.
Right.
Because nobody expected this growth. I didn't expect it, and none of my co-hosts expected it.
Well, it's well-deserved.
So, you have to take your time. A good thing takes time to develop, just like fine wine.
I agree. Now, one of the things that this last meeting, we were talking about the current state of the Texas legislative session.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion of how that's going and what could be improved?
I'm extremely disappointed with what's going on, but this is something that we have known about. You know, on a leadership level, our leaders are letting us down big time. There are people that like to point the finger, and I'm not one of those.
Sure.
You know, I constantly hear about Cornyn. You know, it's Cornyn's fault, and he did this, he did that. Well, you know, Cornyn is not the only politician in Austin. And when I see things like, for example, Ken Paxton that has announced that he's running for Cornyn's seat, I like to tell people, wake up and understand that we are not changing Austin by putting Paxton in Cornyn's. We're just changing seats. They're
Right.
just changing seats. The leadership in Austin remains the same. And this legislative session has disappointed so many of us. But yet we're willing to keep the same people in
Right.
Austin running our leadership. And people need to wake up that it all has to change.
Yeah, you know, the Houston Chronicle wrote an article, I want to say it was probably about a month and a half ago, that the next generation of Republican leadership that are just stuck where they're at because there's no upward mobility into leadership positions because the governor and the Texas Railroad Commissioner and the comptroller and the senators, they're all just changing positions.
Yes.
Attorney General.
Yes.
So they're just keeping power in just that small circle without allowing any upward mobility.
Exactly.
Now,
exactly.
do we need the next generation leader to step forward and to be able to move into those spots?
I believe that it's already happening, Barrett. I see that in the Menudo Club. We have leaders that we are touting in our community, and the reason that we are doing that is to get them exposure, to get them experience, because number one, before you run for an office, I think it is so important that the community know who you are.
I agree.
Right now, I'm seeing people come forward that are running for some major offices that, number one, haven't been in Harris County for a very long time, really do not know the political system yet. They're trying to make themselves known and their ideas known. But I'm like, we have to really, really vet these people when they run for office. That's what we're doing at the Menudo Club.
Right.
And we like to showcase people first. First, you showcase them. You get them ready to do interviews. I constantly try to share my standings in the media with other people, particularly if they're potential clients. I like to expose them to the media so that they can start getting known.
Right.
And then you run someone for an office once the community knows who they are and they can trust that person.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Now, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about you some more. We've talked about your organization. So you've had such a rich and varied career from politics to international music. How have those paths intersected with each other?
Well, they intersect in what I call little touches now. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you're ever there early for a Menudo Club meeting, you will see me with my boxes of decorations and flags and stuff. And all that is from my artistic background. Mm-hmm. That basically I just do that. Because another thing is, aesthetically speaking, when people come into the Menudo Club, I don't want them to be bored. I want it to be colorful. And so I take that upon myself, and that comes from my artistic background. In the theater, of course, when I was in college, of course, I had to take set building. Of course, I was very fortunate in my career that I quickly became the star, and I didn't have to.
It's always nice.
I didn't have to build or paint or anything. However, I did do all of those things and learn those processes, which I use now.
Sure.
In the Menudo Club, it's just you come in and it's very colorful. You saw the stage that we set up, or the podium on the 3rd of this month, that had a lot of flags and a lot of color. and just a lot of fun. And so that is how those two things come together. The other thing is my experience with public speaking, with being in the theater, with projecting, because that's also something that you have to know how to do. Sometimes you get to a meeting where there may be no microphone.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to project. With me, none of that ever bothers me.
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, there's no microphone. I know how to ramp it up so that people can hear me. But that is a form that I also work with my co-host, where I'm trying to mentor all of them to learn all of those techniques.
Now, when you're performing in an artistic venue or in a political arena, do you have different sides to you? Are you the same person?
I'd like to say that, yes, I do. Of course, in the theater, you're going to have to be different people because you have a role.
Right.
So, if I'm playing Johnny Skiki somewhere, I know the role that I'm playing. I know that I'm supposed to look like an older person, and that's all set out for you. In this arena, the only thing that I still bring from the world of art is those little touches that I learned as an actor. For example, I'm pretty short, and I'm sure you know that. So I know from my experience in the theater that I have to walk slowly. For example, when I'm walking to the podium, I have to walk slower than other people in order to give myself some stature.
Okay.
If I get up at a meeting and quickly run to the podium, I look like a little miniature person that's moving real fast.
My wife is taking notes on this.
It doesn't give you the stature.
Right.
Okay. And those are easy fixes that you learn from the theater, is that, I got to take my time, and then that will give me height.
Right.
It's just an illusion, of course. But those are very important things. And again, those are things that I try to teach other people.
Well, where do you see the Saturday Menudo Club years from now? I mean, a lot of times whenever, in school and in early careers, short, medium, and long-term goals, where do you see this eventually getting to? I know you said you wanted to keep it in Texas for right now, but where do you see the potential? I know we talked about the sky's the limit, but is there truly a limit?
Well, right now I see two things. I see our motto, Ya no más,
Yes.
becoming a motto in Washington at some point. I can see Donald Trump, because we are trying to reach him and have him use our motto, Ya no más.
And can you explain that for our audience as well?
Ya no más just means no more. No more.
Okay.
So when we see a politician acting up or something, we say, Ya no más. We're tired of this. No more. So I can see Donald Trump very easily taking our motto and beginning to use it. That's number one. Number two, I definitely, with the growth that we're experiencing and the people that are coming on board, I definitely see us being able to produce a Hispanic candidate for president at some point.
I agree. In fact, that's one of the things I think that when I was invited to, at the end of my first meeting, Liz Ramos had invited me, and that was one of the things that they had talked about, that the Trump administration is definitely acknowledging that it was the Hispanic vote that really carried him into the White House, but that the Hispanic community is wanting more representation in the administration.
Yes, and the same, it trickles down to, for example, our local politics here.
Right.
We don't have any representation in City Hall, and not only on a Hispanic level, but on a Republican level.
Right.
And so we need to change that. I personally think that the GOP gave up on that a long time ago. that's one of the reasons that we're not involved there, because I'm not giving up on that.
Right. And I think it was, 2018 is when there was just this seismic shift when the county judge fell out of Republican to the Democrats, and it just seemed like there was just a rash of Democrat judges that ran, and they're running unopposed.
Yes, and not only that, but see, I'm not giving up on any of that, and I see it all as a possibility in the very near future, just simply because we are the majority now.
Right.
And so, as we unify as a race, as Hispanics, we will be able to turn even the city of Houston, red.
Yeah, I agree. Now, if somebody wants to start an organization like this, similar to yours, how would they go about doing it? I know it started off with a group of friends. Is that probably the best way to do that?
The best way to do that, for example, if people are watching us, say in Baytown or Channel View or whatever, and they're interested in maybe having the Menudo Club there, is number one, to go to our website, the SaturdayMenudoClub.com. Come to one of our meetings and speak to us, see how we run a meeting, and then just approach us with an idea of moving into another city, either close by, or it can be El Paso, wherever,
right.
Whoever's watching us, and then we will guide them. We personally will train these people. We initially, I will hand out, I will do the scripts for them for their first meetings. And of course, anywhere we expand to, at least two of our hosts are going to travel there for their initial, say, first meeting and first two meetings before we let our co-hosts loose.
Okay, well, this has been an amazing opportunity for me to have you in the studio. So finally, what's one thing that people should know about you, but that they don't yet?
Oh, what a question. I would say that many people don't know that I'm old.
I wouldn't have guessed it either.
So that would be the one thing, is that people seem to think that I'm like the Energizer Bunny. And that's my fault because of all the things that I'm involved in and all the things that I do. But I every once in a while I have to remind people, I'm not young anymore. So, I do have my limitations. I mentioned to you earlier that I was doing television interviews last night till 11:30.
I know.
I was doing a radio interview this morning at 7. So, the schedule is extremely hectic to keep up with. And people need to have patience, because in this day and age, I get requests to do things, and the expectation is that me or one of my co-hosts have to address it immediately.
Right.
And, I particularly, need people to know, just be patient, and things will happen, things will get done. And there's not one request that we ignore or we overlook. And that's about it. I'm not as young as I look.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that at all. But I feel so fortunate, because I know that you are doing a plethora of interviews. You have interviews scheduled after this. So I'm just so glad that you were able to make time for the Saturday Menudo Club and be on our podcast. And Eduardo, thank you so much for everything. And to everybody out in our audience, this is just the beginning of what we're going to be able to do, and having great human beings on our channel. So please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all of the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.